Thank you all for participating in our panel today.
Thank you.
So Tamara, I'll start with you. Can you describe what you do for Enlo, your role, the span of control you have, et cetera?
I'm in charge of it all. No, my name is Tamara Durfee. I'm the Director of Technology for Enlo Medical Center. I'm responsible for the IT for the whole hospital, so servers, networking, security, our PC Tech Help Desk, and all applications, 160 plus applications in the medical field that we support.
Terrific. And Don?
My name's Don Hornshoe. I work with a company called Corvo. My areas of responsibility are the server administration, database, multiple databases, shared services, and a little bit of the PC Tech side.
Terrific. And finally, David.
Sure. My name is David Huang. I work at Payton Technology. I'm the VP of Global Technical Operations. We do advertisement decisioning software as a service platform for cable operators. Basically, targeted ads, same as you would get online, you get on a cable VOD platform. We have data centers in the US and in the EU, as well as a significant AWS deployment. Manage most of the applications, the Java apps built on a Linux VMware environment. We also have physical and virtual Hadoop deployed in the US and the EU as well.
Terrific. And if you don't mind, how long have we been doing business together?
Oh, it's been about 9 years or 8 years, possibly.
Sounds about right,
around there. Yeah.
And Don, do you know?
Well, I've only been at Corvo for a year.
Okay.
So it's been a year.
Okay. Well, I'll answer for you. It's about 5 years, I think.
Okay, great.
So there's a long history of Dasher and Enlo before I started there, but I believe it's about 10 to 12 plus years.
Yeah, terrific. Mm-hmm. Terrific, thank you. Okay, I'll start with David. What types of services are you looking for from a value-added reseller?
For me, I think of our staying on top of new technologies and helping me out on my next IT project, steering me in the right direction. I think that really brings most of the right value, brings the value of the VAR. It takes a little bit about knowing my infrastructure, which I guess that really brings up the VAR customer relationship. It gives, the more previous projects that you guys work on, the more you understand what I need on my next project. I also value a VAR that works with all the regular players like HP, VMware and Dell, but also the ability to add new vendors quickly. I think Dasher, you guys helped me out with adding some new technologies like Maxta and Reduxio in the last year for my recent projects, where I really appreciate. Saves me a bunch of time because I don't have to work with my finance department and go find negotiate net terms with every single new technology partner out there. So I definitely find that value there.
Terrific, that's great. And how about you, Don?
Partnering, really. I mean, I like to work with our VAR as if they're part of the staff. I have a lot of times some difficult conversations, very candid conversations, so we can strategically move forward with whatever the situation is, whether it's political or technical related, and trust. And just build the trust, and I can't stress enough, it's almost like part of my staff.
That's great. Thank you for that. And Tamara?
So when I came into my position at Enlo, it was in a reactive state where we didn't know when things were end of life, and there was surprises of when we were asking for money from the organization. And Enlo is an independent nonprofit hospital, so surprising them with $100,000 or $1 million purchases is not good, and it's hard on the organization. And so that's really been something that I've wanted to remedy, and Dasher has been helpful with that by outlining with us where our infrastructure is coming end of life. We have a monthly meeting with Dasher, there's sometimes HP, where we get a full review of anything coming up. So I now have a full 2-year plan of any infrastructure end of life cycle needs that I've been able to present up at the CEO level and show, here's where your purchases are going to be coming, and it provides them a path of where their money is going to be going coming up. And then I'm now working on taking that even further out to a 5-year plan. And so what that also does is it shows that our IT department is on top of what we're doing. And when we're making recommendations to the board and the CEO, they see that when we're asking for things, it's a prescriptive approach and it's not just reactive anymore. And I think that that has really helped move forward a lot of great technologies that we've purchased through Dasher. So
That's great. So you're hot. Let's stay with you. What's a current project that we've been able to help you with other than lifecycle management?
So one that was a lifecycle management is we are in process of replacing our medical archive solution. It's end of life. It's a very critical system to the organization. And there was a lot of back and forth with what the solution would be. And at the end, we did go with the solution that Dasher helped us work through. And I believe that the value that you guys provided was really kind of sticking with me through the whole thing, even though I asked a lot of tough questions and probably made it a little challenging. My job is to make sure we select the right solution and we spend the money appropriately. And so it did take some time to get to that point. But Dasher really helped provide the value to provide the information whenever I asked for it, no matter maybe how crazy they thought my questions were.
And how long are you going to keep them as online, do you think? What's the lifespan of this system?
The life cycle of the new one should be hopefully in more of the 6 to 8 year range, which is about how long we had the
old
existing one. Yeah.
Terrific. Okay, Don.
Wow, lots of projects. Well, being new to Corvo, I really wanted to get a better understanding of current state. We didn't have a lot of documentation, still working through that. And I was able to lean on Chris, wherever he's at. He had patience with me, came in, and I just started asking him a lot of questions that I really wasn't able to get from my own staff, which was very helpful. We recently did an assessment on our environment because we didn't have the documentation really telling me what was out there and where it was at, which I'm sure a lot of you may be in the same boat. And to start that strategy of performing a lot of the activities that we heard the first two speakers kind of talk about today. There's other projects happening, data center consolidation, work efforts. Sorry, guys. I was like, what is that? Warranty coverage of devices, storage strategies going forward, because there's a need for tiering storage. There's a number of projects right now that are on the table.
Terrific. And David?
I think, actually, right now I'm considering alternatives to an AWS DR. Granted, we enjoy a great value from having DR in AWS, but I am a little concerned about RTO times for some of our more critical components. With that, Dasher has been great in bringing some alternatives, bringing some technologies into play like Zerto and nimble block replication to the cloud, and also partners like Island, into the discussion. As I go into my 2018 budgeting, I wish I could go out 2-3 years or even more. But I'm constantly searching for quotes to build out my 2018 budget. Lucas from Dasher, his team has been really helpful in getting all the quotes, chasing down all the quotes I need to just build out that budget as well as I can, and also giving me some ballparks in terms of what I need for technologies I haven't talked to yet.
Okay, terrific. So this morning we heard from Theresa Payton talking about security, and recently in the news, unfortunately, things like breaches at Equifax and Yahoo have brought it again to the surface. How important is security to your businesses right now? Of the IT spend or the mind share that it's taking up of your time, how much is dedicated towards security? David.
For me? Well, in our industry, it's actually, security is an important item because it can impact a lot of eyeballs. Last thing a cable operator wants to see is a hijacked program. Actually, I think just 4 weeks ago in the LA area, a cable operator was hijacked, and they broadcast an emergency broadcast message for the end of the world. Now, luckily, it wasn't our systems that were compromised, and it also wasn't the end of the world. But it really is an important aspect in in our organization. Now, we follow the best practices based off of NIST and OWASP, guidelines. We taught, and we take security appliances and companies, Fortinet and services like Qualys to do testing against our infrastructure. We're also looking at static application security testing and dynamic application security testing. Asking Dasher to bring in folks like HPE, possibly White Hat, or Micro Focus nowadays. It's quite a lot of trying to always fighting the battle.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, Don.
Well, we deal with government, so we have ITAR compliance that we need to work with. It's a big deal. It's a huge deal. As soon as our executives hear about what happened recently, all of a sudden the questions start coming downstream, and we need to respond pretty quickly with answers. I wish I could say that we're in the process of looking for a lot of different tools to help us with solving some of those problems right now, but I'm spending a lot of time just on the foundational work of people and process, and how old is the equipment out there? How do we standardize what's out there today? And just kind of getting all that in place, and then making decisions on how current it needs to be based on the environment that we're in with manufacturing, and then kind of going forward from there. So we do have a number of tools that are out there today with our InfoSec team. There's a percentage of them that are just partially installed. So I can't really rely on that as much as maybe network segregation and really focusing on people and process.
Okay. And Tamara.
So for Enlo being a medical center, we have HIPAA. And so I have to look at security from two angles. So security related that's industry agnostic. So what do you have to do to protect yourself no matter what industry you're in? And then I also have to look at it from a HIPAA standpoint, a regulatory standpoint. And so as they were talking about earlier, you have to look at what are you needing to protect. So at Enlo, our most critical data is our patient data. And so that's really the asset that I'm responsible for protecting. And Enlo has really made a huge concerted effort in the last couple of years to focus on security. It had always kind of been in place, but the CIO really put some structure and set it up. And so when I came in, I was really able to build off of that and establish a security program. For the first time ever, Enlo now has a dedicated security team. And I think that that's key, is having a team focused on security and building a program and driving that forward, because other teams are always going to have severity ones to deal with and projects to implement. And so when you have a focused security team, I really think that helps put that, gets that buy-in from the other teams, from the organization, and places that focus on it. So we've really escalated pretty significantly the focus on security in the last couple of years, and I think that Enlo still has a long ways to go. It takes a lot of time. So we're kind of on a 5-year plan to get there, but I think we've made significant progress in the last 2 years.
Terrific. So you two are both in the business with IP, right? You're protecting information. You're protecting individual patient records. Do you see similarities in those?
For my organization, we also have some PII as well. So we have to take care in that. Also dealing with the EU, we have to be aware of making sure that PII doesn't go anywhere outside of those borders. So there's a lot of awareness that needs to be education within the organization on how to treat that PII, how to deal with your systems, and making sure my sys engineers know that segmentation, especially with a team that works globally. So in terms of how you have to deal with PII, I'm sure you have segmentation, not only in the logical and technical sense, but also in the team sense as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm not going to say we're mature yet, but
Yeah.
definitely on that path.
Yeah, those concerns are all similar in nature. Yours are certainly more local and regional, and yours are global in nature, but nevertheless, it's still information you have to protect. Okay, so let's talk about cloud. So we hear about it all the time. We've got workloads going in and out, up and down, sideways. For us as a company, we're actually customers are coming back to us. Customers that might have made a decision to go from private infrastructure out to public are now coming back. It's a great phenomenon for a business like ours. While we partner with some of the cloud guys, we believe there's a really good story to tell for selling infrastructure and supporting that infrastructure. Where are you guys in your businesses? I kind of know the answer to yours, but I'll start with you, Tamara.
Okay. So really what I'm looking at, the focus from a cloud perspective is any products applications that we are purchasing or upgrading, we're evaluating, do they provide a cloud solution? For us, that's kind of the quickest and easiest way to take some of our critical applications and get them into a cloud is someone else doing it for us. So our two big ones that we're in the middle of is we are in the middle of an Epic implementation. And so Epic will be hosting us. We're also in the middle of an Infor implementation, materials management and finance. And Infor will be hosting us through AWS. So for us, with our amount of resources that we have, that has been our easiest path to get some of our critical applications into the cloud. Besides that, we've taken kind of our first step with the medical archive solution that I mentioned. For the storage behind it, we have purchased 3PAR, and we have our first venture into a colo where we're putting that secondary 3PAR to send the data over there. So that's kind of our first path that way.
Okay, terrific. Don, what's Qorvo doing with the cloud?
Well, I'm just in the beginning process of writing that strategy, so I'm hoping to know soon. But where we are currently is we have some private cloud that we're building out for storage. We're going to end up templatizing our infrastructure internally, similar to what we heard HP talk about earlier. We also have some focus on SaaS products out there today as well. So there is education that needs to happen as well. Just what cloud is and the boutique cloud providers versus the infrastructure cloud providers, and right. I'm sure a lot of you have the same challenges of just educating executives on what cloud really even is, and then what fits best into your environment. And that's kind of where I'm at, as well as creating the strategy.
Great. And David?
For us, we leverage, as I mentioned, we leverage cloud for our DR and our secondary workloads. We definitely, when looking at new applications, if there is a cloud service offering, I would prefer my organization to be focused on hosting our application versus, say, hosting Exchange or applications that other people are focused on hosting. So we definitely push those. We push for those services immediately. However, for our own applications, the cloud is really a benefit in terms of being able to rapidly deploy infrastructure. If you have a greenfield service, you have no idea what the performance baseline is, the cloud is a great place for you to deploy. Get that baseline, be able to be able to scale quickly if you need it, or even scale down if nobody uses the service. So for us, that really is great for us. We have a customer POC where we think we're going to have like 100 virtual instances to support this one new application, and we don't know what will happen, so until we get the actual production workload on it. So we're going to let run for a year. We're going to go back to my CFO and say, hey, this is how much it costs, and this is how much we're going to save by bringing it back into the organization. I think that's really the case I usually bring to all of my CFOs and C-levels when we work in the cloud is, it's great for understanding the baseline, and we can do that ROI, and when we do the evaluation of whether or not bringing it back will be cheaper, and then based on that decision, we'll decide whether or not to continue on the cloud or build out our infrastructure. Now, when we build out infrastructure, you really get especially in redundant data center infrastructure like VMware and Hadoop, you can really milk your capital investment. Years 4, 5, and 6. And you probably don't want me to say anything over 3 years, but if you don't care about if your server is going to die and your infrastructure is going to take care of it, then yeah, you can milk that hardware until it's too expensive to run. or it goes kaput. So we leverage the cloud in that facility.
So would you say Cadence has matured to the point where IT is viewed as a strategic advantage versus a cost center?
I think for our organization, because we run a software as a service for cable operators, it's a little bit easier. When you are actually running the infrastructure where you're actually generating the dollars, if the infrastructure is not running, then we're not getting paid. I think it's very easy to go to the CFO and say, hey, we're part of the profit and loss center and not the cost center. For organizations that may be dealing with healthcare or law, where it's not primarily selling an IT service online, may be a little bit more difficult. But I think when you say, hey, I can save money in your organization, not within your own organization, but say I can save money for another organization, make their processes a lot better, I think that really makes the IT conversation of making IT a strategic investment a lot more viable with your CFO.
And Don, would you agree with that assessment?
I would. Qorvo's culture right now is adopting lean a lot more so, especially the Six Sigma part. So the analytics behind whatever decision we make is, you have to predict it. What I really am driving towards is, if I need money, I have to find it through efficiency. It's difficult for me to go forward to a CFO or my CIO and say, can I have $200,000? Typically, it will get turned down. The challenge for me has been not just finding the money through efficiency, which I enjoy doing, but the result of that could be, what's that equate to an FTE? And then whose names are those?
Right.
So kind of can defeat the purpose a little bit.
Yeah, the hard decisions.
Yeah.
Sure. And then finally, Tamara.
I think from the ROI perspective, I think in the work getting to that point, because we're now trying to get proactive and look ahead. And so like right now we're evaluating, we're going to be spending some capital. And originally we were going to buy additional memory. And now we're looking at, because it's been a year ago since we made that evaluation, does it now make sense to actually purchase new blades versus adding additional capacity to old ones?
Mm-hmm.
What is that going to cost to support them? The support costs on the newer ones are less. And so, being able to go through that process and show what that return would be on making that newer purchase versus adding into the old, we are starting to do those types of evaluations. And then at Enloe being a medical center, IT is a cost center. I think that as part of the decision to go to Epic, IT really played a role in that decision in looking at the ROI of that product purchase. It's a huge investment for the organization, and being part of that strategic decision and showing how the quality that the product will provide in terms of patient care, quality patient care, safety, being able to do those double checks on medications. I think that is really going to be a stepping stone once that gets implemented to show how IT products can actually, be a strategic advantage for an organization, not just a cost center. So I think it's definitely a first step. But in healthcare, the focus is on patients and patient safety.
Sure.
and the quality of the outcomes. And so IT is a tool to help achieve that. But I think that if it's looked in that light as a tool to help achieve it, and that it's part of the solution of, the quality care that they get, and then what's supporting that, I think that over time, I see that it, could be looked at strategically.
Terrific. Any questions from our audience for our panelists? Ken.
For in the space of HIPAA, for customers that are, or us in the IT field that are thinking about expanding our HIPAA presence, what would you suggest? Should we partner with an external IT function, or how? We're not a hospital, so how would you approach it? Any advice for people that are new to HIPAA journey?
Sure. I'm guessing that one was for me.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend is what we do is we partner with a healthcare consulting company that just focuses on healthcare security. And so they're an expert in that field. And so I really definitely would advise to try to just go it alone. You can put yourself in, an uncomfortable situation if you don't handle something correctly or don't apply a regulation appropriately. So if you partner with an expert in that area, I use them, instead of Tamara made this decision on security or interpreting a HIPAA regulation, I'll make that decision because I feel I know the answer, but then I'll run it by our consulting company, and then I can say they backed this, or they agreed with it, or they had this additional recommendation. So it basically gives credibility to the decisions that you make and the things that you're doing and the priorities that you're making.
Good. Anybody else? No? Okay. Oh, right here. Brian.
How did you get your leadership and your management team over the hump of putting your data outside of your concrete walls?
It's not easy. It's a lot of ongoing conversations. I don't want to say it all comes down to money, but I think that when you can articulate it in those terms, so for us at Enloe, the cost to more adequately secure our data center or secure our infrastructure is a lot higher cost than what it would be, and that goes into the ROI question, like when we made the decision to go with Epic Hosted, what it would take for us to do that work and provide the equivalent security. We were able to show from a cost standpoint and a security standpoint that decision made more sense. So it's really it really does have to be evidence-based and showing them, here's what, as an organization, that we can do. Here's what, if we go with, a hosting solution, what they can do and what they're going to provide and how it's going to be, more secure and a cost savings.
Yes, in the back.
This morning, touched on a little bit when moving to SaaS in the cloud about enforcing or looking at stringent SLAs. And a question to you is do you find, how much scrutiny do you give those SLAs in your process? Have you found them to be adequate? And have you had any problems like having them deliver on those SLAs over time?
Yeah, who's that question for?
Whoever's moved to the cloud the most so far.
It's probably you, Dave.
Yeah.
Great.
So,
Thanks.
when we evaluate the cloud, we treat it like any other infrastructure. You have to treat it with that same redundancy that you have your own data center. So when you build out in Azure or AWS, they give you a whole bunch of different availability zones. The way you deploy your applications, you still have to think about it in a redundant sense. Now, in terms of the SLA for the particular application, you'll be surprised that AWS does not guarantee that your instances will stay up, right? No, or not, maybe it's not a surprise. You expect that the instances will go down. So whatever redundancies that you have traditionally in your data center, you still have to build out in your in the cloud. One nice thing is that they have so much infrastructure that you can kind of duplicate your workloads, or at least make more redundant some of your workloads. It does cost a little bit more money, but that is that is part of the anticipation in moving to the cloud. Does that help?
That helps. It's a good strategy to going in. Have you found their standard SLA to be adequate, or have you had to negotiate those at all?
My assumption when going to the cloud, I do treat it like it's another failure point. I don't treat it like the golden egg where they know, they will make my infrastructure run 100% with 5 nines. I expect them to crash and burn just like anybody else. So when I build out there, I have to have that mentality. And so regarding to pushing them on SLAs, no, I haven't had that conversation.
I can follow up with that one. So since I'm in process of moving a lot of things to the cloud, I definitely am scrutinizing contracts and making sure from a contracting perspective that I feel that we're covered. Again, if something goes down, you're down, but I do think it's very important to make sure that in those contracts that you're covered. We have one product that's hosted that I inherited from quite a long time ago. And the contract was written very weak. and it's probably our application that goes down more than anything else, and it's truly due to the hosting side. It just goes down more than anything else, and they don't really give us the time of day. They just kind of say it's down, and we don't have anything from a contractual standpoint to push back on it. So I would definitely encourage you to make sure that you have the weight in your contracts to hold the vendor accountable.
I'm already familiar with that, so I'm definitely scrutinizing these contracts quite a bit now going forward.
That works well for like boutique hosting companies and that kind of thing, but when Microsoft has an issue, I don't really feel like I have a lot of negotiating power with them. It's kind of, well, yeah, we had a change we didn't expect, and we just kind of feel the results of that. I think it's just business. As business is going to, it's just go forward. Just things we need to expect. Hopefully they get better.
Let's go to Clint.
I was reading a book recently that makes an argument that IT leaders fall in this trap where when we go to management or sit at the table, we present them with mountains of data and statistics and all this stuff where other organizations don't have to do that. Like if you were in legal or finance or something, you just kind of say, I need resources because I said so, versus having to say, I closed X number of tickets or look at how many this, like we're kind of always, there's a lot of talk about searching for metrics to demonstrate value. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Are we doing it the wrong way? Should we be?
I can probably take that.
I feel equality in business is a good thing. So when I'm pressed for metrics, I feel that the whole organization should be pressed for metrics. Now, the sales organization, they may get the ability to book up the Ritz-Carlton for whatever. But and in IT, we have to think about it. We have to really go, well, my team will benefit so much from 18 holes of golf. It's the reality is I believe the whole organization has to do it because their metrics may not be the same metrics as ours. However, they still have to perform and they still have to be able to hit their numbers to get that. And I'm pressed. I don't like to stay in organizations where metrics across the board are not followed. Organizations that have metrics-based results for sales, for legal, for HR, and for IT. Those are the ones I find more successful.
Don, did you have anything?
Well, I before I was at Corva, I was recruited from a healthcare provider. So 2 different worlds. In the healthcare vertical I was in, the metrics didn't matter as much. I mean, it was just the company I was with. Emotional sales helped. You could do that. Where I'm at now, it's all about metrics. They're all analysts looking at these production lines and efficiency and all that. That's what the organization understands. So if we can't go forward with predictive analytics of what we're thinking about doing, and not to the bottom line detail of everything, but in target audience understands, that creates a presentation that I put together that they can't really argue. It's based on the data. So it's hard. It takes a little more time for me to really understand that target audience and the amount of data they want to see versus what they don't want to see, because it varies by executive, but it's what they understand. So.
I don't use metrics because they're required or I'm asked. I use them as a tool to help get what I think the organization needs to help them be successful. So if I'm looking to strategically present from a security standpoint of what tools or processes or procedures, I'll show maybe some metrics, of what it could mean if we don't do that or what we're seeing. You mentioned, tickets. So if I want to, try to make a case for I need additional staffing, that's when I would use some of those metrics to show over time an increase, in tickets or calls. So I use them more as a tool to help present a message for where I'm trying to go.
Super. Okay. Well, thank you, panelists. Terrific job. Great job. Yeah. Awesome. Really good. Thank you. Yeah.